This brings the count to story number 2. Democrat double standard. Former President Barack Obama's 60th birthday bash not looking so intimate after new video shows massive tents put up at his Martha's Vineyard estate. Obama promising to scale back the nearly 500-person guest list to just close family and friends over COVID concerns. This includes stars like Oprah, Beyonce, Jay-Z, and John Legend. So where is the outrage from the left about it being the next super spreader event? Joining us to discuss, Republican candidate for U.S. Senate in the state of Pennsylvania, Kathy Barnette, and author of the book Everything to Lose, Nothing to Lose, Everything to Gain, along with former GOP chairman from California, Tom Del Beccaro. Welcome to you both.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, Kathy, I'd like to start with you. Why is Obama getting a pass to have a party while the rest of us are facing lockdowns and more COVID mandates?
Yeah, I don't know. Why is Obama doing this? Maybe because he's a hypocrite. Maybe because he's a Democrat, and if it wasn't for the fact that they have double standards, they wouldn't have any standards whatsoever. You know, and in all honesty, we have really major issues going on all across our nation right now, and yet the left is obsessed, like a rabid obsession, with this Delta variant, telling all Americans that this particular variant is highly contagious. And from all the reading that I've done, it is more contagious, it appears, than the previous version of COVID. Yet the death rates don't seem to match the hysteria. Nonetheless, they are saying they're coming door to door to knock on people home because of this variant. They're telling us our kids may have to be masked again. They're telling us we may need to shutter our businesses, vaccine passport. And yet here we have a super spreader event about to take place. And where is the outrage? It is time for Americans to begin to recognize this and begin to resist whatever these foolish policies are that the left is trying to put on us, but not for themselves.
Yeah. Well, Tom, you know, an anonymous staffer working for the party said this to the New York Post, quote, his birthday party is insane. His bash is a nightmare to pull off this time of year on the tiny island, especially due to the lack of labor because of the coronavirus. What is he thinking? Your thoughts?
Well, look, what is he thinking is that he's an elite. And this is really what's very harmful to the Democrats. And of course, the whole effort to keep people healthy. People see the hypocrisy. They see the elites get to do this sort of thing. Of course, here in California, Gavin Newsom did the same sort of thing with his private event at that super expensive restaurant. And it undercut him. And one of the reasons he's getting recalled in California. So this elitism, hey, it's good for them. They can get away with it. Rules for thee, not for me. And that not only undercuts their credibility, but it also undermines the entire narrative of having to be careful. And there's really no way around this, especially since Obama did one of those commercials advocating for the vaccine. So at the end of the day, they undercut their own credibility. They prove to be elites, and they ruin the effort to keep people healthy.
And Tom, you know, if this were Donald Trump, would this not be the headline on every major news channel right now?
If Donald Trump had Thanksgiving dinner with his family, it would be the major headline.
Yeah.
You put 100 people in a tent, which is really interesting. And by the way, he's got a $12.5 million house. He came out of the White House way richer than he went in. So all of these things, it's absolutely true, and it undermines their own effort. And by the way, it's one of the reasons why they're going to do so bad in the midterms, because people see this kind of hypocrisy and they're tired of it. That's why they turned to an outsider in Trump to begin with, and will continue to turn to outsiders like in California, because they're tired of elite politicians.
Yeah, and isn't it interesting how Obama doesn't want to go back to Lori Lightfoot's Chicago? Yeah. You know, and I want to turn to a House hypocrite here. Squad member, Democrat Congresswoman Cori Bush. She is facing major backlash this week after making no apologies for spending thousands of dollars on her own private security while still calling to defund the police. Let's take a listen.
I'm going to make sure I have security because I know I have had attempts on my life and I have too much work to do. There are too many people that need help right now for me to allow that. So if I end up spending $200,000, if I spend $10 more on it, you know what? I get to be here to do the work. So suck it up, and defunding the police has to happen. We need to defund the police.
Unreal. So, Kathy, is her life and safety more valuable than all of ours?
Apparently to her, right? Her life is more valuable than the mom who is just trying to take a stroll in certain parts of downtown Chicago. Her life is more valuable than the child who can't play on their sidewalks in certain parts of Philadelphia downtown. And that's the hypocrisy that we were talking about a few moments ago. Again, here we go, another member of the left displaying double standards. And, you know, it's not the most articulate statement in which she just made, but nonetheless, it tells you a lot about this party. We have some very inarticulate children who are running our nation. Our nation is in trouble, and we can constantly put up the spotlight to shine a light on the hypocrisy of the left. But at some point, the American people must begin to realize that our nation is in trouble. I give it less than 2 years if we don't get this right. It's the very reason why I'm running for the Senate. It's the very reason why so many people are going to barnetteforsenate.com and supporting me. It is time to send adults into these particular circles because we're in trouble.
Yeah, and, you know, didn't Democrats blame Republicans for trying to defund the police? This is how the White House responded after being asked if the president and Democrats about the mixed messaging. Let's listen in.
I will say that the president has been crystal clear that he opposes defunding the police. He has said that throughout his campaign for office. His record over the last several decades has made that clear. He has proposed increased funding for law enforcement and the COPS program, increased funding from his predecessor, who was, as you might note or be aware of, a Republican. So I'd note that his record is pretty clear on this.
Tom, I'm going to say the fact check on that is false. I remember during his campaign, Biden didn't say he would defund the police, but he said he would divert those funds elsewhere, essentially defunding the police.
Yeah, semantics. And Kamala Harris, of course, supported defunding the police as well. This is another great elitism story. The definition of elitism in this sense, the arrogance, is I can afford to do this, but you have to live under a system where you can't afford to do it. And isn't the recent polling that 90% of the people in Detroit and other areas don't even want this? But again, this is a major reason why Democrats are in trouble. Here in California, again, why Newsom's going to be recalled. A staggering 65% of people say crime is increasing. 65%. That's an unbelievable number, but it's true because of this attitude of A, you don't have to be personally responsible for your crimes. You can go in and steal things and nobody will do anything. And B, these calls to defund the police. And crime always kills the party that isn't, law and order party. So this is going to be very bad for the Democrats next year. And
before we go, I want to take a listen to this. Cori Bush, she is also furious that the McCloskeys were pardoned by the governor after the couple defended their home from her and a mob of BLM protesters. Let's listen.
They stood there, they pointed their guns, totally reckless, to a group of nonviolent protesters walking down a street that had no clue that they lived there, didn't care that they lived there, didn't know them, didn't want to know them. Mark McCloskey is an absolute liar. He has spat on my name, and because of that, his day will come.
His day will come. It's safety for me and none for thee, Kathy.
Once more, right? Yes, a bunch of peaceful protesters who broke down a private gate that led into a private community and began to walk up and down the street. And of course, no one should not have worried at all, although we were in the midst of the summer of rage last year, right? But here goes a large crowd of individuals who look very upset about something. And we're watching every night last summer of the looting and the burning and the destruction and the murder, quite frankly. I still remember the retired police chief, David Dorn, who was shot in the face just because he did not want a bunch of thugs breaking into his friend's business. I still remember the young children who were shot a 2-year-old who was shot in a stroller while out with his mother in a park in New York City, just minding their own business. And here come all these peaceful protesters just walking down the street looking for food, according to AOC at that particular time. Can I also just say, I asked someone earlier, maybe about 2 weeks ago, what is the #1 requirement for for someone to be a criminal? Now the answer is that they don't follow the law. But this particular white progressive leftist told me the #1 prerequisite for someone to be a criminal is for them to be Black. That is what she said to me. And what these particular legislators recognize is that we have a history in this nation where where slavery was a part of our history. The blood of slaves courses through my veins, and yet our nation has done a tremendous amount to right those wrongs.
Yeah.
But these particular politicians on the left, they're weaponizing the ignorance of so many in this country.
Yeah, they sure are. Well, Kathy Barnette and Tom Del Beccaro, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.